direction I am.
We talk about alignment or resistance. We talk about the path of least resistance and the path of most allowance. They're the same thing. Now let's go to something really practical, because this is something that we've been reaching for an opportunity to explain, and this seems like it's it. So let's start with the larger premise that non-physical has less resistance than physical. Yet here you are as physical beings. So then let's take the premise a little further. I want to be physically focused in a state of as little resistance as I can accomplish. So a first step is in acknowledging the value of contrast and what it produces, but using my ability to focus in the direction of what feels best. That way contrast serves you. Are you sort of following? Mm-hmm. We really are talking about the difference between thinking and receiving. Sometimes you ask us, you say, Abraham, you seem schizophrenic, because first you teach us to be deliberate creators, and then you ask us to be allowers, and then you encourage us to think about what we want, and then you encourage us to have no thought at all. And so what do you want from us, you say? And we say, we want you to discern what's of greatest value for you in any point in time. We want you to discern where your greatest value is. When you are without desire, contrast will serve you. So here's the rule of thumb that we would apply if we were standing in your physical shoes. If we are in a moment where we are consciously aware that we are feeling good, we would stay focused there and allow those thoughts to become more and more and more, because the law of attraction will cause that. And if I really am in a state of non-resistance, the momentum of it will become more and more and more and more and more and more and more. But eventually, as long as I am in my human form, as that thought expands to more and more and more and more and more, eventually, hear this, we love you so much, eventually, resistance will enter in. And mastery of creation is to recognize the moment that resistance has entered, and now the continuation of the thought is no longer productive or valuable. Did you hear that?
Yeah. Because then you're pushing against.
Because you've introduced resistance. And so the rule of thumb is, as long as it feels good, let it play across your mind and even contribute to it. It's all right to contribute your own thinking thoughts. In other words, we're not asking you to stop thinking. We're just helping you to discern whether the thought is a resistant thought or a non-resistant thought. And so we break it all the way down to no thought, so that you can feel what non-resistance really feels like. And then you allow your vibration to rise, and now you are a vibrational harmonic to what your vortex is. And now what's in the vortex starts occurring to you, because your inner being and the cooperative components and the thoughts themselves are radiating transmissions which you are receiving. Everything's going really well, and it feels so good, and now you want in on it, and you want to add more detail, and that's all just great, and it's delicious and delicious and delicious and delicious until it isn't. And in the moment that it isn't, then just let it go and say to yourself, that was really satisfying, that was really good work. And that's what we mean by getting out ahead of it. Let the vibration carry you. So of course you want to be deliberate creators, you want to think, but you see, you want to show yourself what thoughts you think are of advantage and help, and what thoughts you think are not. And your emotion lets you know that, because the thoughts that you think that are in complete alignment with what your source energy knows to be always feel good, and when you get crossways of that, it always feels bad. For example, you're thinking, you're blissed out, you've been meditating, and thoughts are occurring to you, and now you're sort of getting a vision, or ideas are rolling across your mind about something, and things are really moving, and then somewhere down the road, we're talking 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 minutes in, you think about how someone would respond to you if you were accomplishing that and they were observing it. Now you've introduced a thought to this mix that your inner being would never think. You've introduced a resistant thought. You see how your connection to source is helping you to synthesize? Can you see how you could be born into resistance, where the resistance could always serve you, if you can keep from pushing against or railing against resistance? Can you see how, as long as you are acknowledging the value of contrast and the benefit that it is to you and others, can you feel how delicious it would be to be watching the television of those who are expressing different than you would or behaving different than you would, and instead of feeling like you want to push against them and stop them, instead you're understanding the part they're playing in the whole? And so now you're thinking what your inner being thinks. You're stimulating my thought. You're thinking, all of this is contributing to a whole. You're thinking good will come from this. You're thinking there's nothing for me to do about it right now, but thanks for the data. Thanks for the information. So now you're having a step 5 moment. You remain tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You're exploring contrast through the eyes of source. Life is really good when you're exploring contrast through the eyes of source. Anything that you do that is not in conjunction with who you really are will always have a takeaway feeling, an emptying feeling, a destructive feeling, a resistant feeling.
So what that's bringing into feeling for me is something else that you've said. Things have never been as good as they are right now.
There's evidence of that all around you.
I just lost the evidence. I lost the feeling of that. So
well, it just got a little out of balance.
just being a human being.
It just got a little out of balance. But you gave us the most important words when you first began to speak. You've already decided that you don't want to be a conditional responder to life. It's just great when you look at those conditions that you consider to be good and you feel good. But then when you train yourself to be a conditional responder to life, then you've got to put yourself in this safe space. You've got to protect yourself from every condition, and then you resent them. You resent them for creating environments in which you don't feel good. And then you think, I can't get away from you. I can't destroy you. That's usually a human response. I'll just get rid of you in some way. I'll isolate you or incarcerate you or execute you or incinerate you. I'll get rid of you in all of those ways, but it never goes away because whatever you're pushing against just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the only path to happiness, to joy, is to find the vibration that is it and practice it. Get so far out ahead of it that everything else just bounces off. And it will.
Awesome.
It
Thank
is.
you.
Yeah. You're getting this. Do you know it? Can you feel yourself getting this? Are you willing to give yourself more permission to have more fun, to feel more free, to struggle less and try less hard and let yourself bliss into your awareness rather than struggle into your awareness?